Life Adventure News.
Superstar rapper Nicki Minaj announced on Twitter earlier this week that she would not be pressured into getting vaccinated against COVID-19, even if it meant skipping out on the Met Gala, saying, quote, "If I get vaccinated, it won't be for the Met. It'll be once I feel I've done enough research. I'm working on that now." Minaj's accompanying salacious anecdote detailing her cousin's friend's supposed troubling vaccine side effect made plenty of headlines. However, so did the response. Major media and political figures, including MSNBC's Joy Ann Reid, England's chief medical officer Chris Whitty, and even Dr. Fauci himself publicly accused Minaj of spreading disinformation and encouraging vaccine hesitancy. Let's take a listen.
And people like Nicki Minaj, I have to say this. You have a platform, sister, that is 22 million followers. Okay, I have 2 million followers. You have 22 million followers on Twitter. For you to use your platform to encourage our community to not protect themselves and save their lives, my God, sister, you could do better than that.
There are a number of myths that fly around with varying, some of which are just clearly ridiculous and some of which are clearly designed just to scare. That happens to be one of them. That is untrue. People, I regret to say, I think know that they are peddling untruths, but they still do it. In my view, they should be ashamed.
How can health authorities even attempt to combat this kind of misinformation coming from somebody who is a huge and beloved international star like Nicki Minaj?
It's very difficult. There is a lot of misinformation, mostly on social media, and the only way we know to counter mis and disinformation is to provide a lot of correct information and to essentially debunk these kinds of claims, which, may be, innocent on her part. I'm not, blaming her for anything, but she should be thinking twice about propagating information that really has no basis as except a one-off anecdote. And that's not what science is all about.
Nicki Minaj also found herself with another unlikely but very powerful ally.
Who could have guessed that rapper Nicki Minaj would turn out to be one of the bravest people in the United States? A couple of days ago, we would guess, most people who watch the show may not have heard of Nicki Minaj. And then she tweeted about the COVID vaccine. She didn't come out against the vaccines. She merely said that as an adult and an American, she should decide whether or not to take the vaccine. So here's the point that she's making. Probably a lot of things Nicki Minaj says that you may not agree with. You may not like her music. But the 2 points she's making are worth reiterating. You can't allow people to force you to take drugs that you don't want or that you don't need. It's up to you what drugs you take, period. And if you allow people to force you to take drugs you don't want, you're done.
And now Joe Biden is involved. Yesterday, after Minaj tweeted she had been invited to visit the White House to have her questions about the vaccine publicly answered, CNN's Don Lemon tweeted out that the Biden administration had only offered Minaj a phone conversation with a White House doctor and that no invitation to visit had been extended, which I think is a shame because that would be fun if she went to the White House. Minaj swiftly took to Instagram Live, where she claimed she had been blocked from posting on Twitter. A Twitter spokesperson has since denied any action was taken to prevent Minaj from posting, which is actually interesting in its own sense. She also called out Lemon and Reid, suggesting their criticism of her had been coordinated because they're black. Let's take a listen to that.
Do y'all think that I would go on the internet and lie about being invited to the White House? Like, what? Do you guys see what is happening right now? Oh my goodness. If y'all don't see, it's not even surprising to me that they had to use one of us. Like I said, the first time they used one of us, she was the first person that was used. Now they just used this man to come out and put this thing out saying that I wasn't I wasn't invited to the White House. Do y'all think I would lie about being like, what the who the
I'm a fan of her music, but it's she's saying they were all saying that she's spreading misinformation. I mean, I don't. This story that she told about the friend's cousin, whatever, is incredibly suspicious. But she was kind of just saying, she's doing more research before she gets the vaccine. I don't know what's misinformation-y about that. Again, I would advocate her and anyone else to get the vaccine. I've said that 1,000 times on the show. But everyone went into full meltdown, and by everyone I mean the mainstream media goes into full meltdown mode about this. What about all the times misinformation was spread by the health officials, by Fauci himself, on Lab Leak and what else? Joy Reid, she initially said, I remember because I wrote about it, she said, well, I'm vaccinated, but I'm still going to wear 2 masks when I'm outside because my level of alarm is that high. If Nicki Minaj's thing counts as misinformation, why doesn't that?
I mean, I agree with Nicki Minaj that you shouldn't be doing anything, making any sort of medical decisions based on coercion. If you want to go somewhere fun, well, then you need to go and do this XYZ medical thing. I don't think that that's right at all. I think she is very accurate to say, look, I am doing the research. This is something I'm going to do for me. I'm not going to do it because I want to go party. So I do think that's very accurate. As far as her anecdotal claim that everybody's really upset about, again, I mean, look, I haven't heard of that one personally, but there are other sorts of anecdotes that were deemed to be misinformation, like the heart inflammation at first. I mean, I had a video removed from my YouTube channel for reporting on that, which then ended up being, now it's an actual FDA, warning. But also, one thing that I will say is, and this has been really bothering me a lot, is that during the clinical trials, they never asked women about their menstruation. And now, finally, after all of these thousands, hundreds of thousands of women, in fact, came forward saying something's up with my cycle, the European equivalent to the FDA finally launched an official study to look into that. And now I hear that there's reports that the NIH is finally looking into that. But those types of, but telling women this whole time, like, oh, none of that's real, that's all misinformation. And then now they're saying, okay, all right, well, maybe there's actually something to it, so we're going to look into this.
And also, we shouldn't be afraid of the line that, well, it's a private medical decision and you should talk to your doctor. Your doctor's extremely likely to tell you it's safe and you should take the vaccine. So people shouldn't be afraid. People in the pro-vaccine camp, like I am, shouldn't be afraid of that narrative, I think. Right. What do you think, Ryan?
No, yeah, and Kim's right that the menstrual reports are a good example of, I think, the way that misogyny works its way into the science sometimes. And nobody should have been surprised about that because, there's a relationship between the immune system. The immune system gets triggered by a vaccine, and that can influence the cycle. That we know that with the flu vaccine. This is not unusual. Yet you did have these hundreds of reports that became thousands of reports put into the system that were not being addressed by the government, which then creates unnecessary hesitancy and skepticism about the safetyness of the vaccine, rather than they could have been like, you know what, we're looking into this. We see this side effect with the flu vaccine. The flu vaccine is not going to kill you. There's no reason to think that this necessarily is something that's debilitating when it comes to this vaccine. But to just ignore it, then contributes to creating a vacuum that paranoia can creep into, and you start talking about swollen testicles of my cousin's buddy.